Fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. Today we're going to talk about the Prince Phantoms. Really enjoyed this review of the new Phantom rackets. This includes the 100P, the 107, the 100X in all different weights, 305, 290 gram, and the 1820, 320 gram. Quite an interesting cosmetic. We have to mention that straight away. It's kind of a military inspired. You can call it camo, but it's not really camo. It's more of a military green. Different nuances of green. I think it works. It's quite specific, so it might not be for everyone, but I think it works. Most people who have tried these with me have commented that they look nice. As you might know, if you're a long-time tennis nerd watcher, I did really like the previous Prince Phantom, the 100X 305. We got a pretty glowing review. The 100 320 gram 1820, which on specs should suit me, was a bit too flexible, I felt. And when you studied the specifications of these rackets, they are still with very low stiffness. But what has changed, they've included Cylon in the Techstream, and the idea there is to actually enhance the stability without increasing the RA of the frame. And that is felt in these rackets. These rackets are all, in my experience, more stable and a little bit less flexible. They're not tough on the arm. For you looking for comfort, I think these rackets could be very interesting. They do have a little bit of a more stable feel, and that's something I really missed in the previous generation of Phantoms. I felt like they were very nice, but in some situations they were too flexible. I lacked a little bit of stability. I felt the need to add more and more weight, which then makes the racket tough to maneuver. So I would definitely say that that's the different thing mainly here, is that the stability is improved.
So I remember it was like 2020, I think the previous editions came out. They were well liked by the people I talked to, and obviously the people in the tennis nerd universe.
This is the third iteration now of the Phantom. So, you know, the first generation was really well liked. It was a little on the softer side. It had a little bit more of a muted feel. We realized that, and we wanted to adjust that and give it a little bit more power, a little bit more pop for the modern game, which is where we ended up with the second generation. So we'd stiffened up, you know, certain areas of the frame. We adjusted the layup to get that a little bit more crispness. And even with the Twaron added in that second generation, which does dampen a little bit of the vibration in the frame, we obviously had adjusted that for a little bit more power. And I think when we look back at it, we maybe gone a little too far. And some of that feeling, some of that, you know, the magic of the first round of the Phantom, because it's obviously a unique kind of frame in tennis, being so thin and having such a sort of buttery feel. We'd gone a little bit too far. So we wanted to dial that back a little bit and get a little bit more back to that sort of flexible DNA of the thin frame Prince rackets. So that was really our intention with this racket. We've added the Cylon material now instead of the Twaron, and we've just found that gives it a little bit more responsiveness, a little bit better feedback, as opposed to some of the mutedness that we got with the Twaron material. So that was really the intention. And then it's, you know, it's fine details. It's play testing the frames. It's listening to feedback from players and really trying to gauge where we need to make those minor adjustments in terms of, you know, layup, tweaking stiffnesses in certain zones, or changing a little bit the balance or the way the frame is set out. So it's really, once you've got a frame like the Phantom that is unique, it's really trying to dial it in to make sure it still has its, you know, the guts of what that frame stands for, but tweak it a little bit so that it's still suited for the modern players.
I had trouble with these models to choose which one was my favorite between two different weight models of the 100X, and we'll get to that. But let's do the model by model. So if we start with the heavier version, the 100X, 320 grams. So this spec is heavy. It's not going to be for everyone with the static weight. Most of the weight is in the handle, kind of, so it's pretty headlight, but you will still feel that this is a bit much to swing. Swing weight a bit higher on this one, closing in on 330 strung. That's 295 unstrung approx, but swings faster than you might think because of the headlight balance. It's a little bit demanding, but not too much. I felt like it was easier to play with than the previous one, where I felt like when you hit outside the sweet spot on the previous one, the flexibility of the racket would kind of like really kill the power of your shot. So if you weren't like pinpoint precise with your game, I think you really were punished a lot more with the previous generation. This one is definitely easier to use, and that goes for all the 100X. and not as flexy. So if you like super flexy feel, might not be for you, might be better to go for the old ones, which are still available at some retailers. But for me, this was a pretty big improvement, actually. I felt like this was a lot more fun to play, easier to use, bigger sweet spot, and a bit more forgiving, which is what I feel like I need, and I really felt like these rackets needed as well. So I've been struggling now to choose between the 100X 320 gram 1820. I do love 1820 rackets, especially in 100 range, because it's not super laser-like trajectory. It actually gives a decent lift on the ball, even with the 1820, since it's in a rounder head. Talking about the rounder head, that might be something you dislike with these types of rackets. Head shape can be important to some of you. Gravity players have a specific taste in head shape, maybe, for example. This one is not dissimilar. A little bit of like frying pan style head shape, especially for the 107. I don't mind it at all. And the thin beams make the rackets move fast through the air. So you don't really feel the 100 range head size. I feel like it moves faster than that. And that's really important for me. And I felt like this one worked well. The 1820 on pretty much all shots. Really nice knifing slice. Good stability at the net. Nice pop on serve. A bit better than the 305. The 305, I felt like I needed to add weight to it. It was good as is, but around like 315, 320 swing weight strong. In stock form, I feel like a little bit more weight on it because it's still a thin beam. Even though the Cylon and the Techstream seems to work well to create a better stability, I felt like the racket does need a bit more weight. This one did not need any customization whatsoever. You add an overgrip and that's it. You can just go and play, and that's really something I appreciate, you know. It is a little bit less launchy in terms of spin potential. You get a little bit less. Ball's gonna go a bit more through the court. Flat hitters might like it. Spin players might dislike it. Stability feels a bit better. Needs no customization. I think it's my winner of all these rackets. I did really like the 305 with its 16-18 pattern. That's a pretty dense 16-18. It's not gonna have this trampoline effect. These are very controlled racket, and it's really well engineered racket. Like, I really enjoy playing with these. One of my best reviews in a quite a long time. Obviously easier to swing, better maneuverability than the 320. Not as pinpoint precision. When you get a bit tight, I felt like I want to go to this one. When I play with stronger players like Nikki, for example, I needed to have a bit more on the ball. I felt like this one with the extra weight helped me. But with some addition of the weight in the head, these rackets performed well. I tried different options. In the end, the more weight, the better for me. But you know how I am. 2 grams here, and I guess 2 grams there, 2 grams there, approx. That's a 6 gram addition to the head. It got the swing weight up to 334 strung here with Toroline Super Toro, which is one of my favorite strings. A little bit of weight in the handle as well. So I kind of used the same amount of weight, around 6 grams, 6 to 8 grams in the handle. Then it performed beautifully, like really nice, ready for tournaments. So the only thing I needed to do here, I had a 290 and a 305, and I wanted to see what I needed to do to match these two rackets, because those are the two weights for the 16-18 pattern. And I didn't need to do much. They were actually pretty much spot on the same swing weight. So what I did, I just needed to add a lot more weight to the handle of the 290. And then I managed to match these two rackets. I used the MetroTune software, and it's been great. Like, really enjoy these. Testing some different strings, try to add weight, subtract weight in the hoop to see if I can get it whippier or if I can get more stability. I think in the end that 6 gram that I added was good. I'm still unsure which one I like the most, but these are my favorite Phantoms. I would say better on the service is the bit heavier one, the 1820, and I'm a bit more comfortable with that one. So that would be my top choice, but these are not far behind. So one strategy you can play around with that I might do is, if I need more spin, a bit easier swing, I go with the 305 rackets. My customized 290 as well, which is now matched to the 305. So I can play with these when I need a bit more spin, a bit faster swing. And when I need more through the court pinpoint precision, I go to the 1820. That's a pretty solid idea, I think, if you're battling with the same kind of racket issues that I do. So those are the 100Xs, all good. 290 would need some weight in the handle, but if you're a leather grip guy, you like that, then you put it on the handle and you're pretty much ready to go, because of the swing weight being very similar. Can both be played in stock form. A little bit of weight, I think, unlocks some extra magic. That's my personal preference. Very, very good rackets, spot on prints, and Tim, these are great. Let's move over to the 100p and the 107. This is the 100p. It is a very, very thin beam. If you like ultra thin beams, this is the one. It has a 310 gram, so in between this 320 gram and the 305. String pattern also 1618, but a dense one. It doesn't look like it's super open, right? But with this like super nice feel in the racket, the feeling of this racket is great. If you have a one-handed backhand, you can see Leah in this clip. She's really enjoyed this racket. She's quite picky with rackets. But this one, you know, when you're holding this in the throat on the one-hander, it's just, yeah, beautiful. Might take some getting used to. It's a quite specific racket with its very thin beam and box beam, but a little bit firmer and a little bit bigger sweet spot than the predecessor, but nothing huge in difference. I would say the difference in the 100X is a bit bigger than the difference with the 100P. I like the previous 100P a lot as well, and this one is still very good. I did lack a little bit of spin potential pop. There's something that didn't work 100% as well for me that I enjoy more with these. While for Leah, for example, who tried this alongside me, she preferred the 100P. She felt she was more connected to the ball with that racket. She liked the thinner beam. But I do prefer a little bit more. I felt like I got a bit more launch on the ball with these. Like if you're hitting very flat, I think this is pretty good. But if you want to have shape on the forehand, I think the 100X is a bit better for shaped forehand shots. But yeah, it's a great racket in many ways. Like great feeling, nice on the slice. But it's going to be a specific target group with the thin beam. It's not a power weapon. This is a control racket with a bit of a more of a pancake shape head. So you can do some eggs and hit some bagels, hopefully. The more control than the 1618 pattern might lead you to believe, alongside the 100 square inch head. But the thin beam, the low flex, creates a control racket with a bit more forgiveness in the head. Very good competitor to a Gravity MP or Tour, this frame. While this one is more competing with the Gravity Pro, I would say. Then we go to the 107. This was what Henrik also tried. He felt that this was a bit tough to control. And I will agree with him. This was my least favorite, but actually still quite good. Leah liked this. Not a fan visually of this crossbeam here. Stabilizer, it's not something I like the look of. It has good power, 305 grams, fast through the air. I do feel the stability lacked here a bit. That was fine in the 100p, but here I lacked some stability in the head. Could give a pretty good lift with its 1619 pattern. And weirdly with the Prince racket, sometimes like a 1619 here feels more open and more inconsistent than the 1618 on the other rackets. That is somehow, they found like a really good spacing of the drill holes so that the racket gives you a pretty controlled response for such an open pattern. This one has a little bit more of unpredictability, I would say, and that was hard to look away from. Feel-wise, great, and if you need some help from a racket and you want a forgiving head size, and you can generate your own power because it's not a powerful racket. Like maybe some weight up in the hoop at 12, bump up the swing weight a bit, get a bit more power on your shots. That's the way to go, I would say. Very arm friendly, the least control of the frames, and that's why it's my least favorite. But I loved all of these. These were all very good rackets, and one of my favorite racket lines on the market. If you like the Gravity line, but you want a bit more lift maybe on the ball, I do like these more forgiving control rackets. It's been kind of a theme of mine of late, also on this YouTube channel. I had a Dunlop CX400 Tour, which is definitely more powerful, for example. Blade 100, really nice stick as well. Also a bit more powerful than this one with its thicker beam, but still very, very good. So these frames now are coming, I think, like the 100 square inch control rackets. I think they deserve their own video. I might make one of those. You get playability, but you still have control, which is sometimes missing when you go, you know, more and more powerful. So two large thumbs up for the new Prince Phantoms. Excellent frames. You're not going to get loads of help, but if you're looking for control in a more forgiving head size. If you need more tennis reviews, check out tennisnerd.net. If you want to buy these from Tennis Warehouse Europe or anything else really from Tennis Warehouse Europe, use TNerd10. Send a small commission to Tennis Nerd, and of course you get 10% discount. So win-win. Have a nice day, and don't forget to play some tennis.